I'd like to follow up now, if I may, on the issue of the temporary classrooms and the school repair project generally. Just very brief comments. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is undertaking currently a $6 million program of school repair. The Prime Minister is now nudging us in the direction of $6.5 million for 93 schools. 94 schools. Never before has there been an example of a government in St. Vincent and the Grenadines spending $6.5 million over 2 months to repair schools. Never. Back at the outset of the commencement of the education revolution, there was a repair and construction program, but it did not reach $6 million. And that's not including the $2 million that is being spent through the BNTF at Caliqua, in Newgrounds, and Park Hill. And that is, so now you're up to 8.5, approaching 9. And that does not include the cost of the temporary classrooms that are being built to house these students in the meantime. Now you're up, the temporary classrooms in total will exceed $1 million in cost, particularly because the one at Park Hill, the Prime Minister intends to be more permanent than temporary. So his is going to be slightly more substantial. So now you're up to $6.5, $9, $10.5 million in schools. And that does not include the 9 schools that the Prime Minister listed that are going to have extensive repair work done, essentially starting next summer, which will also, we don't have the full estimates yet because the architects are still doing their work, but that will exceed $10 million.
Well, they said, Dimitri then told me that it would be a number close to $30 million BC, and I told them they have to keep it under control.
Well, the architects are currently designing a wish list, but the wish list will meet the reality of the Ministry of Finance. So I say $10 million, give or take. So you're talking about $20+ million on school repair or rehabilitation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I want to,
except in the case of Sandy Bay,
except in the case of Sandy Bay, which is an entirely new school being constructed. I want to compliment seriously the work of Minister Francis Bragsa and the Ministry of Transport and Works for the current program that's going on. If you try to spend $6 million in 59 days, you realize you're spending $100,000 a day. And if it's $6.5 million now we gone, it's $110,000 a day. And you're talking about, on average, between $65,000 and $70,000 per school.
You have 73 contractors and about 400 workers.
And there is an army, as the Prime Minister is indicating, an army of contractors and workers out there doing this work in a very tight window of time. Now, at the end of it, I am sure people will come back and say, well, how they fix this? And why they come there and do that part and so on. But that's why I contextualize it. 400 workers, 59 days, $6.5 million, 94 schools. It is, for a small country, an incredible amount of work and an incredible commitment to education and to the students and the parents across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the work is proceeding remarkably well. I am, although my constituency is one of the largest in the country, my constituency has the fewest schools. But I know that the work at Brighton is going very well, and Mr. Regisford, the contractor, is doing excellent work there. I know that Kelly Lucas at Fairhall is also doing excellent work. I know that the private school there, the Sugar Mill Academy, Bragsa is replacing bathrooms at that school, even though it's a private facility. And then we get to the BNTF schools, including Calico Anglican. The BNTF Basic Needs Trust Fund is a CDB program that is under the suzerainty of Minister Caesar, because a lot of the BNTF work deals with rural transformation projects. And traditionally, BNTF money, a lot of it has been spent on footpaths, other things as well. But this year, because we knew we were getting PAVE, which is a footpath, a dedicated footpath project, Minister Caesar allowed some of us to spend our PAVE money on things other than footpaths. And the three of us, the Honorable Prime Minister, Minister Caesar, and I, decided that we would use our BNTF money on schools. Prime Minister and Minister Caesar have spoken about their schools. At Calico, those of you who have visited with Calico will know that it is cramped for space. Last year's grade 6 at Calico was so tight that essentially the teachers occupied the aisle that traditionally runs between between the rows of benches, with additional chairs, so that students really had to work to get into their seats because space was tight. And the main body of the Calico Anglican School doesn't have partitions between the classes. It just has essentially a blackboard, a chalkboard between, and the teachers teach. So the issues of noise and distraction and all these sorts of things. And when I visited the school, the teachers said they wanted partitions. That was their request. But we thought that if we were dealing with partitions, we should also deal with an expansion. Calico Anglican School, as you know, is on a very small plot of land with very little opportunity to expand the land in any direction. So we had to go up to create the additional space. So they're going to go up a level on one part of the school to add an additional 5 classrooms there. Calico Anglican School has 330 students. The work is scheduled to take place over 7 to 9 months. So this is not something that we could have done over the summer, because it's a significant construction project. And you can't do that type of construction with students around. We had to relocate the students. I had extensive discussions with the Ministry of Works, with the principal of the school, teachers, with other members of the community about where we could do this, because the government does not own land in Calico to hold a school. The Prime Minister is lucky that next to the Park Hill playing field is government land. He can build his facility there. Minister Caesar is lucky that the amount of work he's doing at Newgrounds doesn't require a new school to be built, essentially, temporarily. Just a few classrooms, so that can fit on the hard court. Calico could not fit where Calico was, and government doesn't own land in Calico. We looked at the town hall, but the town hall was not large enough to accommodate 330 students. Remembering that there's a magistrate court downstairs and all the other aspects involved there. We inquired of the Anglican Church about the availability of the parish hall that exists in Calico, and they indicated that they had other plans for the parish hall that would make it difficult for them to give up the parish hall for that length of time. We looked at the land behind the community college. Questions were raised, about the mixing of the primary school students with the college population, and also with the fact that most students who attend Calico Anglican School walk to school. And that commute now became another factor in moving the school too far away. The Anglican Church, first, the parish priest, Canon Ashton Francis, came up with the idea of offering the land behind the Anglican Church, immediately behind the Anglican Church, for the construction of temporary classrooms. And that idea by Father Francis was endorsed by Bishop Friday of the Anglican Diocese, and they have already commenced work on the construction of temporary classrooms. I want to state unambiguously our gratitude to the Anglican Church, to Father Francis, and to Bishop Friday for making the land available for us to place these temporary classrooms. They didn't have to do it. And it creates some inconvenience for them to have construction going on behind the church and trucks driving through and all the rest of it. And they're doing it for zero rent. So I want to say thank you very much to the Anglican Diocese. There is a meeting this afternoon at the Calico Town Hall to discuss all of the details of this. The architects will be there. The Ministry of Transport and Works will be there. The BNTF officials will be there. Teachers will be there to discuss how this is going to work practically. And the Ministry of Education says it starts at 4, but I don't know which parents can reach there for 4 o'clock coming from work. But we'll have it this Tuesday afternoon, and we will commence that discussion and have additional discussions. We hoped that the construction would start essentially when school started, the construction on Calico proper, the main construction. But the BNTF has a process that the government cannot control, and they're going through their bidding and their revisions and so on. So it looks like more likely that construction will begin in October there. But we didn't want to move the students in the middle of the term out of the school into the temporary facility. So the intention is to complete the temporary facility before school starts, have the students begin the term in that facility and go through until the process is completed. So I wanted to just say that about Calico and to thank Minister Caesar in his role as the minister who is responsible for BNTF for making it possible for us to use these BNTF funds to enhance the educational experience of all of these students in Newgrounds, in Park Hill, and in Calico.